Now, let's get more on the search for the missing sub-vessel in the North Atlantic now. As you've been hearing throughout the course of the day, a banging sound was picked up by an aircraft scouring the area around the wreck of the Titanic during the hunt for the missing submersible, which carries, of course, is carrying 5 passengers. The news raised a glimmer of hope that the 5 may still be alive, but it was tempered by an apparent inability to locate or reach the sub and the knowledge that time for a rescue is clearly running out. Jamie Pringle, a lecturer in engineering geology, said that the rhythmic banging suggested that the sound was unlikely to be from another vessel. The submersible may be snagged in the wreck or moored in the seabed, but there is less than a day's worth of air supply to sustain the occupant. So it's clearly a horrific and harrowing story. Let's get a word on this from Ryan Ramsey, former Royal Navy commander. You are a retired submarine captain as well, Ryan. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
On the overarching point, you're a man of the sea. You know the dangers of it. It's one of the most, if not the most dangerous environment anybody can try and navigate in, certainly in difficult circumstances, certainly at depth, etc. Does it surprise you that these kind of, if you like, trips are allowed to happen at all?
Well, I think when you think about that, these people are explorers. When you think about it in that way, and actually they test how far we can take human endeavour. We encourage people to go to space. We do commercial space travel. So I'm not surprised that somebody might push the limits by attempting this particular voyage.
And of course, you know, that those that did so had different levels of experience of this kind of thing. None of them would have anticipated, of course, despite knowing the dangers, that it would come to this. But I suppose ultimately, Ryan, that you're in a very tiny, in the grander scale of seafaring vessels, a fairly vulnerable piece of kit, I would suggest.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So a very small submersible with no real ability to control it yourself. When you see some of the YouTube footage about the fact that basically there's an up button and there's a down button, it's not the same as, say, for example, rescue submersibles where you can actually exercise some form of control. And in terms of depth, I mean, you know what it's like to be on a submarine. I mean, I would imagine that is an experience that you not everybody can take. It's not for everyone. It's not compulsory when you're in the Navy, of course, but nonetheless, for those that choose that area of naval life, I would imagine it always comes with that thought in the back of your mind that you are in an incredibly challenging environment, even on a good day. That's correct. So if you think about it, submarines are the most as complex as spacecraft, and you take them into an area that's less explored than space. So I have a huge, and have always had a huge respect for the sea. The sea controls us, we don't control it, and you have to operate accordingly. And when things go wrong in submarines, they go wrong very, very rapidly, which is why submariners across the world are trained up to exceptionally high standards in order to respond to these. So I can only think, you know, the crew and the passengers in this submersible going through what is an horrendous experience, assuming that they are still in the position that they're alive and progressing. It must be horrific for them. And my thoughts go out to the families and friends that are also worrying about this as well. And of course, what makes this the whole challenge and the problem with this is really about depth, right? I mean, this is, you know, it's possible to mount rescue missions in all sorts of ways, but just by dint of how deep this thing is likely to be, that is the nature of the challenge. That's correct. So, well, in fact, there's another challenge on top of that, which is most rescue systems are geared to rescue off submarines. So you send down a rescue submersible, that goes to a submarine, the hatch is into lock, which then allows people to exit. In this particular case, the hatch is locked shut from the outside, and you can't conduct that form of transfer, so you have to bring it up to the surface. And 4,000 metres, bringing up a stricken submersible has never, ever been done before. And of course, as I was about to say, you know, we made this point quite a lot yesterday. I mean, locating it is one thing, but getting to it and bringing it back up is quite another. Yes, absolutely correct. So they haven't located it, and if you imagine it's 6.4 meter, or just under 7 meters, submersible next to the wreck of the Titanic, which the ship was over 290 meters long, and there's lots of different wreckage. It's going to be really difficult to identify it. And then, as you say, deploying forces that are capable of doing what at the moment seems like the impossible still takes time, and it's going to take hours and hours in order to, maybe days, to get those forces on station. Yeah. And the reality is we're in a collapsing time frame based on the state of the air.
And you'd like to think, right, I mean, the best brains, I'm sure, in the world in this area of sea rescue and deep sea rescue are on the case, but there's only so much you can realistically do. We're sort of talking about the laws of physics here as well as anything else.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. I mean, we all hope for a really, everybody praying, hoping for a successful outcome out of this. But the realist in me says everything's against them at the moment. And there are so many variables to bring under control. It's difficult to see how it ends up with success.
But of course, we continue to hope that it can be successful. But Ryan, thank you for your expert words. Ryan Ramsey is a former Royal Navy commander, a retired submarine captain as well. He knows all about that environment. But this is almost at literally at another level. It is the depth, it is the challenges, it is the sheer breadth and width of the area that they are searching here too, the size of Connecticut or something like that. This could be thousands of square miles that you're trying to search. They think they have a sort of an idea, but having a sort of an idea still spans a huge area of the sea. And they are hoping, and they are sending down detectors. They're hoping to pick up sound, and they hope from that they can take the next step, which will be ultimately to try and rescue this thing. But, 40 hours of oxygen left and 5 men stuck in this vessel. It's really not looking very good, but nobody is giving up. And that is for sure. And it would be the greatest thing to bring you some really good news that something had happened, and it's almost miracle territory, I think it's fair to say at this point. But we will keep you fully updated, and you'll hear it here first.